This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Hello and welcome to Broad Radio. I'm Jo Stanley. My guest co-host today is Brihony Dawson. Aren't I lucky to have you on this very well organised day?
It is an absolute pleasure to be here, Jo. Thank you very much for having me.
You know, we're a little hysterical, or at least I am, to begin a Tuesday morning because both of our guests, unfortunately, have fallen over already this morning.
They've fallen over. They walked outside and then they just fell over.
It happens when you're going live. So we were to be joined by Madonna King, who is a best-selling author, and she's written this amazing book about teen girls called L-Platers. Poor old Madonna, her connection was no good, and she's about to go on national television as well. So in the end, she was like, oh, can we reschedule? Fair enough.
Fair enough. You're absolutely right.
Yes. And then also we were to be joined by Audrey Aura, who is, well, she's OnlyFans, one of OnlyFans' highest earners, I guess you would say, one of the most successful models on OnlyFans. But Audrey is unwell, so she can't join us either.
So you're stuck with me, Joey?
No, that's okay though, because unbelievable, turn of events. We have Stacey Peters, who is the female pathway manager for Golf Australia, joining us to talk about the incredible win from Australia's Minjee Lee yesterday in the US Women's Open. I'm so thrilled that she's been able to join us at such late notice. And Carrie Sackville is going to be joining us as well, who we absolutely adore, author, columnist, regular on Broad Radio. She'll be joining us as well. And we have you, Brihony.
I'm just here. But what a network you have, Jo, to be able to pull in such great guests at the last minute. Well done.
Well, honestly, that is due to our incredible producers. We have Cecilia Ramsdale, who's pulling strings in the back there, and Emma Race, who you know well as well.
I do know Emma Race very well.
Yeah, so we have to give credit where it's due there.
Absolutely.
I honestly have just been sitting here calmly drinking my coffee going, well, I can't do anything.
And I have also been doing the same, Jo, so well done.
So, Brihony, you're new to Broad Radio.
I am.
And new to me in a way. I feel like, I'm a little bit in love with you, but we've only just met.
Yeah, we met at the W Awards, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the relationships that may have started at the AFLW Awards. And since then, we've exchanged 2 or 3 emails, and already in the third email, you got quite personal with me, asking, what should I call you if I was to use a nickname?
Yes. Because Jo, I like to use people's full names. So when you call, I go, "Hello, Jo Stanley, how are you?" But then I was like, "Can I call you Joey, or can I call you Stanners?"
I like both. I get both.
Yeah.
Joey
you do get
and Stanners.
You do get Joey and Stanners.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a funny thing when you go straight in and go, okay, Brihony feels very...
Brihony.
It's very formal.
Yeah, it's a long name. It's a big name. It's hard to spell. It's hard to say. People get emotional about it.
I've got to tell you that I've had to develop a little trick to make sure that I actually spell your name correctly.
What do?
I go Brihony.
Brihony. Yeah. Brihony, no E, Brihony. People have been doing that for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm now going to just call you B.
Yeah, go with B.
Is B all right?
B's very good.
Okay.
Happy with B.
So if you are watching live, welcome. It's basically almost a completely improvised show today. I mean, it always is, but now we've just pulled it together and anything could be happening. But if you would like to share and join us on the conversation, if you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, of course, we always welcome that. We love it when you share your thoughts along the way. And you can always catch up on every episode via our podcast, Broad Radio on the Go, wherever you get your podcasts. And why wouldn't you go back and listen to this one again? Because anything could happen.
We got high hopes. We got high hopes.
So tell me, though, okay, B.
Yes, Joey.
I know you as a sports broadcaster now.
Yes.
You've kind of exploded onto the AFLW stage, doing incredible things. You were at the AFLW Awards doing special comments, interviews and stuff, and we see you boundary side as well, and you're hosting women's footy now.
Yes.
Where did you come from, though? Because you're a singer.
Yes, where did I come from? That is, we're going to go right back to the beginning, Jo.
No, but you've this incredible dynamic entertainer.
Yep.
And then you've gone over the fence to sport.
Yeah, well, I had to pivot during lockdown. You know, as an entertainer, like our industry was just decimated. And I was doing a little bit like online entertainment. I was running game shows for corporates and that kind of stuff. It's the highlight of my career. And then I saw something online called the Making the Call program for female women sports broadcasters. And I was like, I could do that. Like, I love sport. And I was like, I didn't know that I could do that, that was a thing. Like, how am I... Great. So I applied, and that's how I met Emma and Lucy Race. And just the love affair started there. And they're such incredible people and mentors for me, and all the women and people who have been through the Making the Call program. And and I'm just so incredibly lucky and honoured to have had the opportunities that have come to me from that. And you know, I was saying to Emma and Lucy in the beginning, you know, I'm not sure where I fit. You know, I'm not an ex-player, and I'm not a journo, and I'm like, you know, so I'm trying to work out where I fit in this. And that one was like, okay, let me tell you where you fit. And it was like bang, 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 bang.
And so, where do you think you fit?
I think I fit to be able to bring you know, like an entertainment factor to women's sport, and especially footy. I think because we're in you know, we're in the first 7 years and it's building, and I think so many, we're still trying to prove ourselves that we know what we're doing, that we know how to play the game, that we're this and we're good and we can analyse it and all that kind of stuff. And I think now we're far enough into it that we can sort of relax into it. You know, we know how to play the game, we know how to talk about the game. Now it's time to like really sink our teeth into it and get the personalities and the next superstars of AFLW.
It's interesting you say that, because I had a visceral, like a body memory then to when I started in comedy and then when I started in radio, and you're in the room with what you feel are like the big guys, right?
Yeah.
So often, almost always men in my world, maybe for you too.
Yep.
And you had this sense that you were like this little kid trying to, hey, and you're like really trying to impress. And then after a couple of years just going, oh, I can do it my way.
Yeah.
And just really settling into that.
Yeah.
Has
100%.
there been a real sort of sense of that energy?
Yeah, I think so. And I think people are just, you know, coming into it. And I think the people that are watching it are feeling that way now too, where it's not just like, we're not just lucky to be involved now. We are, this is our space, and we're going to take up that space and we're going to grow it as well. And that comes through in the numbers and the amount of women and girls who are taking up sport, all like at community levels and that kind of thing, and the pathways that have come through, especially for AFLW now. You know, the girls who were watching it when they were young, like sort of 13, are now the ones playing because those pathways have been put in place, and it's just amazing. And I just can't wait to watch this thing grow and explode.
Well, now that we have the full team, like all the teams have their AFLW teams in place, and also for the first time we have 3 female coaches of AFLW teams, which is, that's extraordinary in itself.
It's huge. And the expansion teams really did have the opportunity to make that point, and all these women are so qualified, and it's like, okay, expansion teams, female coaches, I think it's just one of the most important things they could have done in that. Yeah.
It's interesting to me, my daughter plays footy, she's 13, right? And she's not a natural athlete at all.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
She's still struggling to find her form.
Yep. Great.
And I often sort of look at her and I think, what is it about footy that you even want to do? Because let me tell you, it was a punish on Sunday when the weather was like sheeting rain, sideways, wind, cold, freezing. It was a pretty miserable day.
Yep.
And yet her team was still out there just, you know, trying their guts out. But so I sort of wonder, what is it about footy that attracts them? But I think it's this sense that you can be physical. You run around in the mud, which no other sport allows girls to do, really. And you can sort of walk away. It changes her relationship with her body.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And I used to play down at St Kilda, and before we sort of had an AFL competition, I was a bit past my use by date by the time that the AFL came in for me. But I play in the Reclink Community Cup every year, which is the music industry versus the radio industry. Go the Rock Dogs. And I, going to training, I leave there just so full of energy and excitement because I just love footy and I love the team spirit and I love, just like getting around people, and you're just allowed to sort of like embody a different part of yourself, and it's so good, and that camaraderie and people that you wouldn't normally hang out with and all that kind of stuff. It really makes you grow as a person when you put yourself in those experiences. And then competition, good old healthy competition.
I get the feeling that you're a kind of competitive person.
Yes. My broken tennis rackets as a child will tell you that I'm very competitive.
Do you get now that you're one of the, I suppose, you're a role model. You're kind of stepping into a role model position.
Yep.
For people like players like my daughter who's in the juniors, and right through to all of the different players. Are you aware of that? Do you feel like you're kind of stepping into a role modelling position?
Yeah, I think most people who step, into a public space or in the public eye and that kind of stuff, I think you do have to understand the responsibility that you take on in that as a role model and that kind of thing. And being a non-binary person as well, there's lots of queer kids out there who never had a role model. I know I never had queer role models. When the L Word first came on TV, I was like, oh my God, what is this? And so now young people are, exposed to so much more, and they're able to learn more about themselves in that. So I think visibility is one of the most important things that you can do as a role model, and being your authentic self. And so that's where I try to be as a role model. I don't try and do everything right, and I don't try and put that pressure on myself, but just to be visible and be your authentic self, I think is one of the best things you can do. Yeah,
you made that comment when Darcy Vesio shared that they were non-binary, which is that it was very monumental moment.
Oh, it was absolutely huge. And I think that was the comment that was the line. It was absolutely huge. Yeah, well done. Very profound, Brihony. But yeah, that took. I actually had a phone call with Emma Race, and I was like, talking about what that means for me to be non-binary in this public space, and it was definitely a thought that I had, and I was like, am I ready for this, and that kind of stuff. And Emma was like, yeah, you are. And I was like, you're absolutely right. And once I sort of stepped into that, I just felt really good, and I felt like I belonged, and I felt the sort of, and I had never even officially met Darcy at that stage, and just sort of felt like you're on the same team, you know what I mean? And I think it's so important to feel that way and have that camaraderie and have that kind of thing in that space. Yeah.
What has been the response to you from other people? I feel like the AFLW is a really warm, welcoming space.
Yes,
that is quite unique.
Yes.
And in and around the conversation with Darcy and yourself and that particular story that came out, has there been a great response to you?
Yeah, I definitely, at the time, it was fantastic. It was huge for Darcy to come out and do that, and I think that the way that it was done was really well done, and it was really special. I know that they, it's really taxing on them. And so, I think it was a really, really positive response to that. But in terms of me, I just sort of went under the radar a bit in that kind of stuff. It's just sort of like a commentator on that kind of thing. And but in terms of because I didn't want to have to come out again. And that's been a big thing with me, and the feeling of I just sort of was like, this is just me now.
Yeah.
And I didn't come out because I didn't feel like I wanted to come out again. I did it when I thought I was a lesbian, and I was like, you know, that was stressful and it was hard, and you put all these expectations on yourself and all that kind of thing, and I just sort of just did it, and that was just who I was now. And then people just pick it up as you go along, and I think you know, for me that's what worked, and I sort of took away the power for other people to be like, this is what we think. It's like, because this is just what I am, you know.
Yeah. And it must be a very strange / traumatic / emotional / I mean, I can't imagine it because I've not done it myself, but to have to share something so personal in an announcement.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I can absolutely feel for everyone who has gone through something like that. And for a lot of people, it's easier than they expected. For other people, it's harder than they expected. And people still have those, you know, little judgments, and people aren't accepted, or they might be, but they kind of not. And there's all these like little microaggressions and all that kind of stuff that happen that people don't even realize that happen. You know, for me, one of the most anxiety fueling moments is going to a public toilet, because I am masculine presenting, you know, and so people see short hair, leather jacket, and they're like, there's a man in the toilet, you know. And so it is, I just, like, people like have berated me. They have like come up to me, they look at me, kids get scared of me. People go and check that they're in the right toilets, or like dudes are like, nah brother, come in here, and I'm like, I think I know what toilet I need to be in, guys, you know. So yeah, that's like one of the hardest things for me. And every time I go in there, I've got to think, what do I look like today? How are people going to perceive me? Do I need to show my face more? Do I need to just hide? If there's not many people in the toilet, I'll wait in the toilet until they're gone, and then I'll come out, and I don't, you know. So it's just like, there's so much I have to think about going in there, you know.
It's absolutely profound that one of the most basic rights, which is to go to a toilet, is layered with that. And I don't think, like, 99% of the population would have no understanding of that.
No, absolutely not. And it's like, there's nowhere for me to go. I can't go to the men's toilets. I don't know if you've been to men's toilets.
Disgusting. I mean, I often go to men's.
In there. What are you doing in there, men? Why you got to grab shit and throw it everywhere?
I've never understood it, because particularly as they have a thing with which to aim, yet they're very bad at it.
Right?
Like,
why you got to do that?
Disgusting.
Just park and bark, baby. You know.
I've never understood. And I'm often in men's toilets because I just won't wait in a queue. Like, I just can't stand it. Like at the MCG or wherever. I'm like,
you're in the men's toilet at the MCG.
I have been, yes. Why not? Nightclubs, MCGs, the same thing.
Yeah.
So interestingly, and we were going to speak about this with Madonna King, because her book, L Platers, actually has a very a long chapter about gender diversity, because for teen girls, it's a big conversation for them. And, you know, for even like my daughter, as I said, is 13. She started high school this year. It's heaps of non-binary kids at the school. It's really just a standard conversation now. But how do we help them navigate that, knowing that they're going into a world where they're going to be looked at like this when they go to the toilet? Yeah,
it's difficult, and but it has come a long way. I was at a barbecue with my high school friends this year, and one of their daughters, she was like, oh yeah, I know all about the non-binary, and she was telling everyone else about like what it is to be non-binary, what people do, and blah blah blah. And I was just like, this little tear like rolled down my face. I was just like, oh my God, people know about this now, and it's young people are having these conversations, and it's like, it doesn't even matter where people end up, you know. And it's just like, we're seeing gender now as a more fluid thing, and, you know, masculine doesn't have to mean man, and feminine doesn't have to mean woman, and you can just sort of, you know, look at the spectrum a little bit more. And I think that is the very first thing that needs to happen, is like open communication about that kind of stuff, to be able to, for people to like ask themselves those questions and look deeper into themselves, and like, where do I fit, you know? And I think young people ask themselves that question anyway when they're growing up at high school, like 13. Oh, you couldn't pay me to go back to being 13.
Horrific.
It's
the worst time of your
Right?
life. Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful. So
Yeah.
So they're asking these, they're like, where do I fit? Who am I? And this kind of stuff. And so the fact that we're having conversations around gender, that's like one of the best things that you could do to know that you can sort of not have to be so rigid in that, you know?
I mean, I think it's a beautiful time because for the first, like, this isn't, my generation were not raised like this, to be given permission to be who you are.
Yeah.
Whereas my generation are now parents
Yeah.
and saying, well, because I was not given that permission, I'm going to give it to my children.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting because even aside from gender, in every space, I think kids are being given permission to go, well, who am I? And I'm going to be that. And but it comes with a bit of a layer because now they have to answer questions that are sometimes quite adult. Yeah. Like, what are your dreams? What are your hopes? What's your purpose? What's your purpose?
Who am I?
And they're like, I don't know, I'm just a 15-year-old who really likes playing video games. Like, you know, it gets a bit much sometimes, but I also think it's a beautiful time for our kids, but it's up to us to kind of help them navigate that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the responsibilities on schools as well to start having these conversations and that kind of stuff. Like back at when I was in high school, like I used to have people leave the flyers for like the gay group, like the school like queer group, like in my locker, you know, like, and I wasn't out. I didn't come out in high school, and yeah,
it's not very subtle.
Yeah, it's not very subtle. It's not very. I wore a beret. Okay, I wore a beret once, and everyone was like, "Brihony, if you're a lesbian, you're allowed to tell us. Like, it's okay." And I was like, "I'm not a lesbian, guys. Okay, I just wore a beret."
I mean, if there's one sign, it's the beret.
Sign.
Look out for the berets.
It's a polo t-shirt and a beret.
Well, it's awesome to have you on this somewhat chaotic show, but it's just, you know, I couldn't have asked for better, to be honest.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Well, it's been a beautiful 24 hours for Australian sport because I don't know, when was the last time we had an Australian golfer win the US Women's Open, but Minjee Lee did, and she's a bloody superstar and holding the flag for Introverts.
Yes, go the Introverts.
That's not you.
That's not. What? I am.
You just told me.
Go Introverts.
Anyway, let's learn more about it. So let's welcome to the show. She is Female Pathway Manager for Golf Australia, Stacey Peters. Hi there, Stacey.
Hey, girls, how are we? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us on this somewhat chaotic morning. Where you had a little co-host with you before, Zoe. Where did she go?
She's making special guest appearances throughout this interview, I would say. Yeah, here we are. Hey,
There
Zoe.
she is.
Oh, Zoe.
My God. How old is Zoe?
Zoe's just gone one, so hopefully she'll be on her best behaviour throughout this, but she may make the odd appearance.
To be honest, I hope that she's not on her best behaviour, but because I'm long past those years, I get a really evil joy seeing
I'm
other
here for a
kids
full
like-
tantrum meltdown. Okay, that's what my.
Oh no, you wouldn't, would you, Zoe?
No, look at her.
Zoe.
She's beautiful. All right, let's talk Minjee Lee though. What an amazing result. It's I have to say I'm not a golf fan. I don't know much about golf. I've never played it, Stacey, other than mini golf, and my husband will tell you it always ends in a tantrum from me.
Does it?
Yeah.
Joey.
That's another
We need
story.
to get you in the game.
That's a whole other episode.
But tell us about Minjee Lee. Tell us, because there's a whole, lots of Australians waking up to even her existence and her beautiful victory yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Obviously, it's been amazing to watch Minjee over the past, 10, 15 years, even coming up through the junior ranks in the national programs or state programs, and into the rookie program in her professional years. Yeah, it's just been an exciting time. Obviously, very exciting over the last 24 hours, but even, prior to that, just watching her climb the world rankings and inspire. Probably the biggest thing for us, inspiring the next generation. She really is such a huge role model in Australian golf, Australian women's golf. So it's just, it's such an exciting time.
So This is what I've read about her. I read a really interesting story yesterday about the fact that she is, she doesn't kind of play the game off the course in the same way professional players are supposed to, in that she doesn't sort of court the sponsors. She's not, a real sort of media player. What can you say about that?
Yeah, there has been a few comments about that, I'd say, especially over the past 24 hours, that, there's been a lot of comments going around like, oh, an Aussie company needs to get on her ASAP. But, when you talk of, Minji, she's generally a shy, sheltered sort of person, and that's just the way she goes about things. I guess she likes to do things her way. I don't want to say in her own little bubble, but it is a little bit, she's not an outgoing sort of girl, and you watch in interviews and stuff with her, it's not probably a part that comes with professional golf, but she doesn't love that or thrive on that part of the game. But that just, we all know that comes with it, and some do better at it than others. But it's not something that comes naturally to Minji. It's definitely something that she's got better at, because I guess she's had to and been thrown into the limelight. But we were actually laughing about it in the office yesterday, how far she's come in that space, because you watch back, there was interviews of her at the US Junior, which would have been, God, it must have been maybe 10 years ago, and the interview, I mean, she couldn't string two words together. So she's come a long way in that space, even though people probably think she still struggles in that area.
I just think that's such a shame. I was just joking before about Introverts Unite, but I actually think that the world, and there's been lots written about this, the world is made for extroverts, in that you get noticed more. I reckon people who are extroverts maybe get more job opportunities. And do you think it's sort of impacted perhaps her, not now because she's got this incredible prize money, but it might have even impacted her income over the years?
Potentially, it could be. I probably haven't thought of it as much like that, because it's very much in Minji's plate. She lets the clubs do the talking. But it definitely could be the case. You look at some people that, hey, let's not say she's not lacking in some sponsors, but I wouldn't say Aussie sponsors have, jumped on board with her like the way they have with Ash Barty. And, both girls have risen to the top of the sport. I'm not saying Ash is, a massive extrovert or anything, but she's been able to show her personality and stuff in Australia, whereas Minji probably hasn't had the opportunity to do that as much.
And was she expected to win? Like, was this like a big surprise, or, people in the sort of golfing arena, they sort of like, yeah, this is Minji's time. Like, she's definitely been building to this, and this is expected, and, where to from here?
Yeah, I wouldn't like to say it wasn't not expected, but it's so hard to win in golf. There's 144 players every week. But Minji, like, her stats this year, and, she has had a win this year already, but not in a major championship. So to get it to all come together on the week that you want to is so hard in golf, and probably does get underappreciated. But I don't like to say we expected her to win this week, but, you're not going to fall over at a world number 4 winning.
Yeah.
But I can tell you what, the office was an absolute buzz yesterday with excitement, and the fact that she got it done, and she's getting closer to world number 1, and all the things that come with it. So many young players and girls, are seeing this, and, it's all over the news here. Like, it's massive for women's golf and Aussie golf. It's a US Open. It's one of the biggest championships to win.
Is it a big sport? I mean, you say it's so hard to win in golf, and again, I refer to my mini golf record, in which I am known in my family. Whenever we go travelling, I'm like, oh, let's play mini golf, and my husband will roll his eyes and say, are you sure? Because he knows eventually I will throw a tantrum because he'll beat me, and I think he cheats. But it is very hard to win in golf, even mini. But is it a big sport Is it a big sport for girls and women? Is there? You're the pathway manager. How do you get them playing?
Yeah, it's is it a big sport in Australia? Percentage wise, no, it's not. But that's something at Golf Australia that we're really trying to grow, and a lot of new initiatives to try and help get women and girls into the game, whether that's You know, like having a lot of females together in one group. You know, more of a social outing. Like golf, let's be honest, it can be an intimidating sport. Like, are you intimidated to go and play? Why do you not play?
Well, I mean, I'm not natural with a ball.
Me either, Joey.
I quite like I like the idea that I can do it while I drink.
Yeah, you like the social.
There's different types of golf. You know, there is like mini golf. There's still golf. You probably don't play the traditional golf, but you know, there's lots of initiatives out there to be trying to get, you know, females and girls involved in the game. That is a massive thing at Golf Australia right now. We need to increase. There is such a gap in participation in the female side of things. Like, yes, sport in general, but golf is a big one. And, you know, role models and like working in high performance, that is the massive role of ours to create role models like Minjee Lee that inspires the next generation.
Yeah. And sorry, Joey, what are the pathways for you know, getting to a professional level here in Australia? I know a family friend of mine used to play golf. She was expected to be big, and she went to America and got, you know, the scholarship at the universities over there. Is that sort of what the pathway is here, or is there sort of more Australian based stuff?
Yeah, I mean the college system is definitely, it is a pathway, but it's just one pathway. For the female side of things, I think the college pathway is quite a good option because the competition level in the States is quite high, and we don't exactly have the depth here at the moment.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're getting there, but we don't right now. But pathways within Australian golf, you know, it's sort of like a tier-based system. Tier 1, 2, 3, 4. Zoe's trying to join us here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so we have state programs, which are like the tier 2 and 3 based, where they do training sessions weekly as a group, and that's not necessarily females or males. It's joint.
Yep.
That involves gym sessions, and then there might be national camps on top of that, where we all get together from all the state programs to come to one place at one time. Service providers involved in that, and then the rookie program, which is the tier 1 program, and that's for professionals. That's what Minjee Lee was involved in.
Yeah.
And that's just for your first 5 years of professional golf, like to assist that transition, I guess, from amateur to professional. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, but what happens? Because I guess there's two things that are popping up for me as far as golf is concerned. One is I only really, other than my mother-in-law, I only know men who play, and it feels like it's a bit of that boys' club scenario in that it's either, you know, corporate deals are done on the golf course with men-only kind of activities, or it's the boys' weekend away, which is just feral, and I can't even imagine what goes on when they go and play golf and they come home with their green jacket that they've been passing around for, 15 years. It's that kind of, boysy sort of environment. So therefore, I'm not going to, that's not for me. But also my daughter, there's like basketball and there's footy and there's soccer for kids, but is there golf for kids?
Yeah. So like some programs that we have within Golf Australia and that are within the clubs, like let's say My Golf. That's an initiative from ages 5 to 12. And like an introductory program, some coaching, some clinics, and then leading up to getting the kids on the course. And that's sort of all done in group situations, I guess, like other sports, like whether it's
like tennis. They do that with tennis.
Pee-wee tennis.
Definitely like or like
hot
smaller
shots.
Versions of it. Hot shots. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So similar sort of thing, but the golfing version of it. So there is within, if you went down to your local club, most likely there would be a My Golf program.
Yes. Well, I could suggest it to my daughter.
Keep her on the footy field, Joey.
Yeah, she's
on the footy
much
field.
happier on the footy field. But I must say, when I see someone like Minjee Lee,
I'll take it to the goal.
Well, it's just an amazing victory, and we're so happy for Minjee Lee. And I'm really happy that Australia is sort of waking up to her because, as I said, just because she's not an extrovert, doesn't mean
it's an exciting time.
They get everything.
Yeah.
It is an exciting time. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Stacey. I'm so happy for the buzz that was around your office yesterday. That's just awesome. And thanks also to Zoe for joining us.
Thanks,
Hey,
Stacey.
no worries. Thank you very much for having us on, and hopefully the buzz around Australia lasts, longer than the 24 hours.
Thanks, Stacey.
In your arena, there's only one race to win. Your own. You never stop, never quit, never look back. You push and test your limits until there are none left. Fuel your performance with INC Dynamic Way to keep you going. Broad Radio. Talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis, we've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
So, Brihony, we've talked sport.
Yes,
we've
Jo.
talked your, throwing yourself into AFLW and what we're seeing of you as a sports broadcaster. But prior to that,
Yes.
you're a singer first and foremost.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. How did that come about? Like, how long have you been doing the gigs?
Yeah, I reckon close to like 10 years now. But I didn't I didn't always get the gigs. I just I was never I didn't grow up being a singer. I didn't grow up in a musical household or anything like that. I actually I got to about 23, 24 and I just was like dreadfully unhappy in my job. I was a sales rep. I had a car, I had the house, all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, why aren't I happy? And I was like in a therapy session and she was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I've never been asked that question before. I'd never thought, what do I actually want to do? She's like, if money didn't matter at all, what are you doing? And I'd be like, I want to be a singer in a band. And she was like, well, no,
Don't we
but
all?
for like a real job. And I was like, nah, I'm going to be a singer in a band. So I literally that day I quit my job. I put my house on the market. And one of my clients I knew played guitar and I was like, hey, do you want to start a band? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, great. And then that's just sort of where it started. And since then, I've toured the US twice. I've toured Europe 3 times. And I've just had the best time ever writing my own music. Now I'm in a cover band. We play all these corporate shows called Midnight Mix. And we just get to do and hang out with the best people and, sing songs. And it's just, I've never been at such a great point in my life, in my career. But there was a time where I just could not get a gig.
Right.
I was like, I could sing. Like if I was at a karaoke bar, I'd be like, woo, people like, yeah, you're really good. Like, that's a little bit different when it's just, you and a guitarist or something like that. So yeah, I definitely have had to develop my voice and my performance and stuff like that. But
and do you have people must ask you this all the time, how did you then break in to getting the gigs? And you do massive gigs now. You've done Mardi Gras, Melbourne Cup, I've seen you're mad for a stage leap.
Oh yeah, stage dive. Love a stage dive.
Yeah. I mean, where you won't crowd surf is not worth crowd surfing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much. I've been doing it a lot this week, actually, last month.
Yeah.
We started open mic nights at the Vineyard on Tuesday nights, right? Classic, iconic.
The Vineyard in St Kilda.
Right.
What
back
a
in
place.
The day. Yeah, wow. Haven't we had some nights there?
Yes.
And then it just sort of went from there. I ended up getting onto a music producer, Grammy Award-winning music producer in LA. And I sent him a song and he was like, he wrote back to me. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, I'm going to be in LA next week anyway. I'll come and meet you. And he's like, great. And I was like, booking a ticket to LA. And I went there and he had, he'd organised Gina Shock from the Go-Go's, the drummer from the Go-Go's, to be in the writing session.
Wow.
And she just calls Alanis Morissette's bass player. And then I've got all these people in a studio on what is it, Santa Monica Boulevard. And I was just like, what has happened right now? This is like one of the best times. I had pneumonia at the time. Like my body went, oh, you've got a great opportunity. Sick. But yeah, it was amazing. It just sort of went from there. In America, they see the bigger picture. They see something in you. Whereas in Australia, I really, really, really struggled to get any kind of traction here. Sending my demos and emails and this to music industry people. There was one person I sent an email to
in Australia.
And they managed some big people, and she wrote back to me and she was like, I can't believe you've sent this to me.
Oh.
Like, the attachment was too large. You've got no thought and consideration for my mobile phone data plan. It's such a shame that there's so many of you approaching like this. I don't know why you told me about a gig in Sydney when we're based in Melbourne, but she just like went through me, and my poor little 20-year-old heart in there just was like breaking. And my friend, I was like, oh my God, I just got this email. And my friend read it and he was like, okay, why don't you write an email back that you would like to write to her, and just don't send that. And then we'll come up with one. And I was like, yeah, great idea. So I just wrote back and I was like, thanks for the advice. I'll take it on board. And she wrote back, she was like, have a great day. Best of luck with everything. And I was like,
have you seen her since?
no.
Okay.
No.
Probably a good thing.
If I know that I'm going to see her in my life together. Someone's going to say her name and I'm going to be like, I'm going to be like a little meerkat, and I'm going to be like, but I printed off that email and I like took it with me. I like put it in my diary, like when I went and traveled, and I was like,
you're right. Americans see promise and they're
Yeah.
excited by it, and they
Yeah.
want to be a part of this joyous journey for you.
Yeah.
Whereas in Australia, we just are so down on each other.
yeah, it's real. I hate to like say what everyone says, but it's like real tall poppy syndrome. And it's like, oh, do you think you're cool?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. Don't be up yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so up yourself.
So up yourself,
It
Brihony.
drives me nuts because I'm
Yeah.
like, how can you do anything if you don't believe in yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Be up yourself.
Yeah.
Be as up yourself as you want.
Bloody
I want
get
you
up yourself.
to, like, disappear up your own ass if it takes that. Why not? I just love that. And honestly,
Yes,
because
Joey.
again, I keep going back to this, and we're about to actually welcome to the show Kerry Sackville, who has, I know, lots of opinions about raising
She's
kids.
heaps up herself.
She's so up herself.
She's so up
But
herself.
for myself, raising my daughter, I just want to build her to the point where she has so much in, like, I feel like I'm putting credit in a bank
Yeah.
for her confidence, because
Yeah.
when she's out in the world, people will take out of that.
Yeah,
I
oh,
need to deposit
100%.
as much as I can, because people will knock her down.
That's
right?
exactly what my mum did.
No,
Yeah,
and look at you
100%.
now.
And she was like, sport. I've got to get Brihony into sport.
Yeah.
And that's what she did. And I wasn't allowed to have toys that were like, that's all women are worth type thing. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to have the oven or the
Yeah.
like the vacuum cleaner that had like the bubble like things. No,
yeah.
she was like,
Not for you.
not for me.
All right. Well, let's get to Heaps Up Herself, Kerry Sackville, author and columnist. Hi there, Kerry.
I'm feeling so up myself at the moment.
You bloody look at
I'm
Kerry.
great.
I mean, look at you with your gorgeous
Yeah.
hair and your amazing lipstick. Oh, you've pulled it together today at very late notice. Thank you so much.
I really did. You know, I was preparing for a morning of slouching around in my pajamas. So I've still got my pajamas on. I just have a different top.
I'm happy to hear that. I would be disappointed if you'd got fully dressed. Oh, my
Oh, God, you know I never get fully dressed unless there's an absolute emergency. Come on.
This is not an emergency. You wrote a fantastic column this week with regards to the Queen's Jubilee and a very poorly behaved toddler.
Prince Louis. God, that was fun. I mean, I found the pageant to be quite dull in the probably 3 minutes that I watched, but Louis was the absolute highlight. Here is a little, 4-year-old kid who is, what did he do? He stuck out his tongue. He made faces. His mother tried to discipline him, and he put his thumb to his nose and waggled his fingers.
Yeah, he did that old school one, right? I hadn't seen
the
that
old school
in
one.
ages.
It's the preschool equivalent of the middle finger, I think. He's probably just too young to actually know the middle finger. Give him another year or two and he'll be up with that as well.
If he was an Australian kid, he would.
100%.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And what else did he do? When his mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, I actually got schooled by someone online today for not referring to her by her correct title. I'd called her Kate, Duchess of Cambridge, and of course it's Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge. I was going to call her K-Mid, but I'm not sure if that would take off. But she tried to school him. She tried to discipline her son, and he actually reached over and put his tiny little hand over her mouth, and it was just fantastic. And of course, the internet went wild. Kate cannot control her children. This kid is showing signs of psychological problems. He's been abused by his nannies.
Oh my God.
He's going to be trouble. He's being like Harry. I mean, he was being like a 4-year-old boy. And,
yes. And she was so stoic. I mean, did you see the look on her face? She was just like, I'm going to try and ignore this as long as I can. And she just had
that's a face that we all get, in supermarkets. And I used to have it myself, and I see it in supermarkets now all the time. The face of the mother whose child is having a tantrum on the floor. My son actually used to say to me, at the age of about 2 or 3, through till probably 6 or 7, he would lie on the floor and he would look up and say, just having a little tantrum, and then proceed to beat his little hands and fists on the floor. And in that moment, I could see it on Kate's face. In that moment, you're thinking, what do I do? Do I let them have this little tantrum? Do I gently try to discipline them? Or do I go, full Monty with the stick and kind of beat them into submission? Because you can't win either way, can you? If she'd gone too far and spoke harshly to him or held his hands or looked like she was angry, she would have been slammed for that. If she'd done nothing, she would have been slammed. So she was trying to take the middle road, which is just be calm and say, please, Prince Louis, behave. And honest to God, if I had to go through the early childhood years in front of the whole world, I would be. It'd be rough. I would be hospitalised by now.
Yeah, well,
more so than I already have been.
Because I would, I think, in that situation, just take him out, right? Just that's it, we're out. And do you want to go outside? But you can't do that when the world is watching and it's the Queen's Jubilee.
And don't you normally when you take your kids somewhere where they have to sit down, don't you bring toys? I just wanted to hand him the iPad and be like, just play your fucking little game, and it's just
100%.
Give him the iPad.
I used to go
Doesn't
around.
Shut him up?
Yeah, you'd go around with a bag. You go around with a bag of stuff, and you have, at the very least, you have paper and pens. You have a little toy. You have your snacks because, my kids could not go 15 minutes without a snack. Even now, we'll go out, on a car trip that's like an hour and a half and we need to stop for snacks. And then, of course, there's the iPhone. Are the royals allowed to have iPhones? I don't know.
Maybe they're not.
Maybe they don't know what an iPad is.
Well, because security-wise, perhaps they're not allowed to have that kind of thing because they could be hacked.
Imagine if you gave Prince Louis the iPhone and he was tweeting from the royal account. Now, that would be something to see.
So I also liked your point, though, let's not squash our 4-year-olds. I just think let kids be that.
Yeah, well, what I was saying is, parenting is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And you honestly can't tell what a child is going to be like. I know the whole thing, give me the child at age 7 and I'll show you the man. But, one of my kids that I was referring to was really difficult at the age of 3 or 4. And they're now just an incredible adult. And you've got to play the long game with parenting. And you can't judge a 4-year-old who's naturally ebullient or naturally challenging or neurodiverse or whatever on what they're going to be like as an adult. And again, kids aren't meant to be contained like that. And kids aren't meant to sit down for 3 hours at a time. No. It's hard enough getting kids to sit for an hour at a cafe.
Is that how long he had to sit there for? 3 hours?
Yeah, it was 3 hours.
Oh, unbelievable. I wouldn't be able to do that as an adult. I'm getting...
No, and the thing is, we expect royals to be... just moving around. We expect royals to be kind of superhuman. And this is the whole thing about the monarchy. They're actually just people. They're just normal people who've been put into a really strange situation and born into a really weird family. Maybe it's kind of another reason to look at the whole idea of the monarchy and think these aren't actually people who are sent by God to rule over us. They're just normal kids who are trained to do a certain job.
Yeah, yesterday I was at work and people were like, oh, isn't the Queen fantastic? And I'm like, I couldn't give a shit about the Queen. I'm not into the royals at all. And the pomp and ceremony that's surrounding, her life. I'm like, yeah, well, she's done well, but she's had a pretty good support system to get her there.
She's had a little bit of help, hasn't she?
That's right. Are you into
Just a tad.
Are you
Just
into it,
am I
Kerry?
into it?
Yeah.
Oh, God, no. God, no. I mean, I did find, though, that I wrote this piece really about parenting. But if you want something to go viral, you write about the royal family. I mean, I've never had so much feedback on my social media as I have writing about the royals. People are completely obsessed with them. And I found that my piece has been shared by all these accounts that I didn't know existed. There's an Italian fan page for the royal family. There's a French one. There's people who are just sitting there reading all the hashtags, hashtag Princess Kate, hashtag Prince Louis. People are really passionate about it. And it is not something that I can relate to. I mean, I'm passionate about certain things, but most of them are things I can drink and eat. So that doesn't really resonate with me. And my cat's here. I'm passionate about you too, Penny. And, I wonder what's going to happen when Elizabeth eventually shuffles off this mortal coil, because I can't imagine people being quite as passionate about Charles. Do
Lovely
you think
Charles.
so? He doesn't really
Poor
seem
old
like
Charlie. He's not gonna be great, is he? He's just gonna be like, all right, then.
he's a little.
Okay.
But that's why
bumpy.
people attach themselves to Kate, because she and William are going to save the monarchy, apparently. But I'm just like, again, when people say, oh, she's so charming, look, she goes and she listens to people and shakes their hand and she really takes an interest. I'm like, it is not hard to be nice to people. That is your job.
It's not.
It's your one job.
It's her job.
Some days it is.
I tell you what.
Some days it is really hard to be nice. And you just lock yourself in a room on that day. You know what I mean? You just don't put yourself around people. Or maybe
But
she doesn't
imagine
have
you
that
couldn't.
opportunity.
Imagine you couldn't. Imagine if on a day where you feel really shitty and you haven't had your coffee, or your coffee, the milk didn't froth as well as it should, and you go out and you have to be nice to all of these people and show interest and ask them the same questions over and over. It would be like a cocktail party every day. I mean, I hate cocktail parties. Standing around making small talk is like my idea of hell. And to have to do that all day, every day, would just slay me. So good on her. She's doing her job very stoically. She has amazing hair.
Great hair.
None of us have long hair like that.
She has the most beautiful hair, and I have been jealous of it since she came on the scene, I must say.
Whoever's doing that blow wave
Yes.
is highly skilled.
Yeah, but
Great blow wave.
that's rich girl hair, right? You know what I mean? Like that's I've got a pony hair.
Yeah, this is.
pony.
I woke up and found out I was going to be doing broad radio and quickly sprayed product on my hair.
Yeah,
it's very
You've
different.
done well.
Yeah.
You've done well, Kerry.
Thank you.
Is that
fabulous.
Thank you.
is that dry shampoo hair?
Is that dry shampoo?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you've done
It
very
is.
well.
And it smells really strong, which is probably
look.
why my cat is getting a bit distressed.
I tell you, I know dry shampoo hair from a
You can
long way
spot it.
away because I am.
Do you dry shampoo that?
I'm mad for it.
Do you?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
dry shampoo this.
Yeah. Oh, it's just natural.
Yeah.
Closer to God.
I mean, it's definitely not natural. There's a bit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kez, thank you so much for joining us, and I celebrate you and your support for parents and, ill-behaved children all around the world.
And just being up myself in all sorts of ways.
Totally up yourself. I was going to say something again, Kerry, but I decided not to.
Well, look, it's the hair. With hair like this, how can I not be up myself?
It's true. We'll see you again soon, Kez.
Bye-bye.
Well, we made it to the end of this madcap show, Brihony. How lovely. Why are you looking at me like that?
I was
for?
like, that was a quick one. I was like, what? I was like, just sitting back like this, like waiting for the advert, and I was like, no,
That's
we
okay.
are
We're
back on.
Yes.
Got the count in.
So, what's next for you?
Next for me, well, we've got another season of AFLW coming up at the end of August, which is really, really exciting. I love not having to wait like a whole another year to get stuck into the AFLW, so that's good. I'm hopefully
Are the
going to
players
be
okay with it? Because there was a lot of talk around whether there was enough, pre-season time. And
It was talked about a lot, especially with 4 expansion clubs and everything like that. And it's sad for the players who copped some serious injuries during that season because they're going to now miss another season. But most of the players that I talked to, it's like, do you want to play more footy? And they're like, yes, please. So, yeah, I think you can see that the passion is there and they're pretty excited.
Yeah. And for you, beyond that, music?
Beyond that, yeah,
performance,
just we're about to go into, event season just comes around pretty quickly again. So once the winter season is over, we'll be straight back into it, play some shows at Graysland and that kind of stuff. So it's just, I'm singing, I'm emceeing, I'm hosting, and it's really good.
All right, as the person who is not on the stage singing, I'm always in the audience. What is the number one song you love to sing that gets people up and about?
I hate to say this, but it's Mr. Brightside.
Oh, it's a ripper.
It is an absolute ripper. People go nuts for it, and I always get out in the audience and like get up on a chair and I'm like,
that's
as soon as they hear that ding, 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 they're like, people are like, oh yes.
I love it. I would love to be in an audience one time.
You
For
should.
you, I should come along. I'll gate crash one
Yes,
of your
absolutely.
next
I'll put it on my
corporate
social
gigs.
media, Joey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us on Broadway. Will you come back?
I will absolutely come back. I've had an absolute ball.
And thank you to our amazing guests who joined us today at very short notice. And we will, I promise, have Audrey Ora and Madonna King maybe next week.
Maybe. Stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned.
Yes. But we will be back with Broad Radio next week. We'll see you then.